Pint and a Catch-Up with me, Sarah. This week's guest is Llewellyn Jones. I first met Joe when he came on board with us at Meantime as a tour guide and brand ambassador, and he's had a really interesting career so far. So starting off, he launched a homebrewing facility over in East London, then went on to become a professional brewer and beer educator, and his most recent venture has been in answer to the COVID-19 pandemic, where he set up an online beer tasting venture. So we'll hear all about that a little bit later on. But first we'll just go and say hi to Lianne, because we'll have her beer of the week. Hi, Lianne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thank you, good. I've got a bit of a further afield beer of the week this week. It's a bit different to some of the stuff I've chosen before, but I'll save it for later.
So it has been a week since our special adventure where we went off to ABC Brewing Taproom for a beer. We ventured outside.
We did,
yeah.
And it was extremely exciting. We went and we did a bit of filming, so hopefully we can get that shared.
That should all be up now, so we'll put a link somewhere where it makes sense around the cyber world, and people can link in and go and watch that. Yeah, it's a good day.
Brilliant. And yeah, I'm gonna be venturing out again this weekend, so I'll talk about that a little bit more later as well.
All right, then we'll catch up with you a little bit later on.
See you in a bit.
Cheers then, bye. Hey Joe, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, plowing on.
Plowing on through the craziness. Well, let's get to the most important thing first. Do you have a beer in front of you?
I do actually, yeah. So I didn't plan on drinking a Hackney beer. You know, I'm not just pushing the brand. I went out to Beer Merchant's tap near me to get some drinks earlier.
Yeah.
But I got completely confused and thought it was Saturday. It wasn't open. So
oh, no.
I've come back to my fridge full of Hackney beers, which is my sort of Stout.
Oh, nice. So what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking Millions of Peaches, so peach and basil sour, which we brew a couple of times every year. And just before lockdown, we brewed one, and then we managed to brew one more not long ago. So this is the latest batch. Mm-hmm. Which is lovely.
That sounds good.
Love this beer. So and then I've got a lovely unmarked can for after from a canning run.
You don't work in a brewery unless you've got an unmarked can or something in the back of the fridge.
Yeah, so
that's the rules.
yeah.
All right. Well, I did have a quick pop out earlier because I had nothing in the fridge when we scheduled this in. So I managed to pop down to Marks and Spencer's, which, can I say, was probably one of the most hair-raising experiences I had. Any other supermarket seems to be fine, but Marks and Spencer's seems to be a free-for-all. I don't know why. But I did manage to pick up a load of Mikkeller, which I'm very happy about. So I got Hallo Ich bin Berliner Raspberry Berliner. So a Raspberry Berliner Weiss, and I won't pour it over the laptop. That's probably not a good idea, but I will put that out. Oh, it's pretty.
What a lovely colour, yeah.
It's gorgeous. Now, I never used to, really badly poured, but hey. I never really used to like raspberry beers, but I'm getting into them a bit more now. Let's just see what the ABV is on this. Yeah, 3.7. So. Yeah,
mine's only 4.
Oh god, that's really tart, but the raspberry really comes through and like gives it a nice, softens the blow, shall we say, of the sourness. Oh, that's tasty. Oh yes, definitely recommend that. Alrighty, so we'll talk a little bit about your career because you've done loads of different stuff. What got you interested in beer in the first place?
I used to be in construction, so I was sort of project manager in construction for quite a few years. And my friend Rob, who's my brother-in-law, was into home brewing, and he was in a job I don't think he liked at the time, and I'm not sure why I was ever in construction, but I was. I really didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't really my sort of thing. But, I went around to do a homebrew one. And over the very first homebrew I did with him, he told me about this idea of opening a place where people could come and make their own homebrew. So sort of not just sort of teaching it, but, you come and rent out a station and brew a beer. Really aimed at people who don't have the sort of space or the know-how. So he sort of spoke about it, and we got ferociously drunk, and we made a really brutal chocolate chili stout from what I remember. I think we were really drunk. We just kept adding more chilies and being like, it's not,
oh my God.
And not actually giving it any time to develop. We spent about 6 months planning it and me getting into beer, because I really was more of a cider drinker at the time. So I was like, I better actually get into beer. And then weirdly, I used to love cask ale when I was too young really. And then I went into sort of ciders and stuff, from your Leary White ciders to actually quite reasonable ones, and then and then went back into to sort of craft beer because of starting Brew Club. So so we started planning it, and after about 6 months or so, we got a place in Clapton in London, actually.
The Murder Mile.
It was. It's on there.
Brilliant.
And we got this sort of old, completely dilapidated warehouse, and then spent months doing it up and opened really before we were ready.
I think that's any business, isn't it?
I think it is, isn't it?
Do it. Yeah.
I was doing that for about 3 years.
I was going to just ask, what year was that you set that up? It was pretty early doors, wasn't it?
2015, I think.
That was kind of the magic year when loads of craft breweries popped up around London and beyond.
Well, this is it. We were sort of on that cusp of it, and then Brew opened up just before us.
Yes.
And I think it was earlier that year, and sort of we were like, oh no, but it was, we were quite different propositions really. Our sort of kit was, everything at Brew Club was aimed towards it, making it accessible and easy. So we had a little Brewmeister all-in-one sort of brewing system.
Sure.
And stuff like that. So we were quite different.
Do you think you started a lot of people on their homebrew journey?
Yeah. I think we definitely started a lot of people on it. It's one thing I'm actually really proud of from my time there, is because we did classes every weekend. There'd be classes, but I should say as well, Brew Club's still going. I left a few years ago because I was having a child, and it was just too much. And I wanted to go into sort of commercial brewing, but it's still going in near Hackney Central. And we started a home brew club, Beer Balls, which is still going with Simon Pippler. So that was really nice because that created a bit of a community of brewers. A few people have gone on and opened proper breweries. So there's a Tap Social movement in Oxford who are great. There's Friendship Adventure and a few others. So it's really nice that you see these people going on to do. And a lot of these people who we started homebrewing, the homebrew group we've got on WhatsApp, they are really, really far into it. I might be a professional brewer, but some of the stuff they sort of.
Do you think some of them are better than you?
I shouldn't say that, should I?
I'm part of a homebrew group in Manchester. There's so many great homebrewers out there, and the stuff they're doing is certainly just as good as any professional brewer is brewing.
Exactly, There's some of the brewers in our group, and there's that BrewCon Simon does, which is a homebrew convention, and you get to meet all these other homebrew clubs, and it's amazing. The last one I went to was all the homebrew clubs had stalls, so you had ones from like Norwich and wherever else. Some of it was just absolutely remarkable beers, and it's nice to see that scene's blown up. And I think with all this COVID, it's got loads of people into home brewing.
How long were you there at Brew Club? How long were you running that venture?
For 3 years, I think about 3 years from opening. And then I had a baby on the way, and just at the time, landlords hiked the rent and stuff like that. So basically, we were going to move Brew Club. It was just going to be too much for me to sort of manage with then having a newborn. I decided to leave and go into professional brewing, because I've spent years in jobs I don't really like, and I thought, it would be a shame to do all this, like have this awesome experience, and then just be like, I'll go back to construction. So
not really going back once you get
that's it. And it's such a cool industry to be in, though. And it's funny because you think, I've spent a few years, using this equipment and learning about brewing, but really I didn't have the sort of experience that professional breweries are often looking for. So I was lucky to get taken on by Sandbrook's Brewery down in Battersea, and I started as sort of cask washer, really. So I was sort of mostly washing the casks and then cleaning tanks, and then sort of gradually learning the ropes, if you like. But it wasn't that long I was there until I started brewing on their kit, which from brewing on a 20-litre Brewmeister to 3,500 litre sort of kit, it's quite a big kit. That's quite a lot of responsibility. I remember finding that terrifying.
Because if you dump a 20-litre batch,
that's it.
Oh my God.
So that was really really exciting.
I remember I have been on a tour there, and it was really good. I was really impressed with their setup. So it's skewed towards the traditional real ale brewing, which I really like, with the big open top fermenters and all that sort of thing. I don't think we've seen a lot of that in craft beer or any sort of newer breweries as they've opened up.
No, there's not really that many craft breweries doing that at all. And it was nice learning on that, like beginning at that. It was quite nice just to have that traditional backing, that background in that.
I think if you're looking at which beers are most difficult to brew, like lager would be the top most difficult beer to brew, but definitely like a great best bitter or a great real ale is definitely going to be one of the hardest things to get that subtle flavours coming out. Right.
That's what the sort of more seasoned brewers than me would always say. It's generally either like a best bitter or a pilsner are like the two hardest things to brew and get right. And I think I largely agree with that, really. You know.
How long were you at Sandbrooks then?
I was there a year, I think it was, or just over a year. They're actually moving to Rams Quarter, is it?
There's that one chap who is still brewing on that site, so he continues. Is that Britain's oldest brewing site? So it continues.
Is that right? And he's, I don't know if that's the guy, but I think he might have been employed by Sandbrooks now to do some stuff with them there.
Okay,
I think.
so it would make sense for them to put that back in, because I know when I thought it was just like one of those sort of novelty things, but I actually looked a bit more into it, and basically the people who developed the Rams Quarter site realised that was a really historic site, and they actually hired someone to come in, put a tiny little, probably like a Braumeister kit in there, just to continue their brewing on that site until they could get a more permanent solution in. So it sounds like they've got that now, which is
that's
great.
what I think it is. And I think it's, I mean, it was, they were sort of planning for it at the end of me being there, and I think the move is imminent.
Cool. So when did Meantime fit into that? It was kind of around the same time you were at Meantime as well, I think.
It was. I'd been at, I think I started doing tours at Meantime around the time I started at Sandbrooks, almost.
I'm pretty sure that was the case. Yeah.
So I came then and started doing the...
That's quite opposing styles of brewing.
I remember sometimes finishing a brew and sort of finishing late and then just running to go and get the, the tube over.
Brewing methods mixed up when you're doing a tour, like. And it goes into cask. No, hang on. So what did you get from Meantime? What was the thing you enjoyed most about working there?
Well, the team, obviously, working with yourself, and but I learned quite a lot because we were quite good with sort of training, weren't we? Doing sort of towards the beer sommelier stuff and things like that. I hadn't really done tastings before that. I'd done all the brew club brewing classes and things like that. I'd done a lot of that, but it wasn't really the same as doing a tasting and trying to delve into the flavours and where they come from and sort of stuff. So it actually helped me really quite massively, especially in a way because you're doing this limited range of beers. You actually have to sort of really start digging more into them to find, kind of enough to say. And one thing I like about it is it kind of put me on the route of getting really into the history of styles and techniques. So that tastings I do now, a lot of it really is focused on the sort of history, because I find that fascinating. And there's so many great stories out there, and it's a sort of mixing that with then your own experiences, as well as obviously talking about the flavours and everything else. But that's what I really like.
That's what was really nice, is that we had that range of beers that seemed to flow in a kind of history of beer way. So after Sandbrooks, where did you go from there?
So I live in Hackney, Wick. And basically I was commuting to Sandbrooks, was this huge commute. And I saw a job come up at Hackney Brewery in Hackney. And I think they were the very first brewery we got on tap at Brew Club when we opened. And we did a tap takeover. And I knew them because there used to be, until very recently, sadly, a music rehearsal studio next to Hackney Brewery. When I first came to London, I was in bands, and I still am, of sort of varying degrees of terribleness. And and we used to practice at that studio next to the brewery. And this was, I think, even before Brew Club it was. So I got to know Hackney Brewery a bit, because sometimes if they were around, they were always nice guys. And sometimes I'd pop in and be like, can I get a few cans of beer?
I mean, it's a match made in heaven, isn't it? You've got your audience right there, like next to the studio. You're going to be selling some beer.
Exactly. So I used to sort of pop in and see them a little bit, knew them a little bit just by being in the studio next to them. And I've sort of always been a fan, going back to when I remember which is long gone now, they had a red ale years ago that I loved.
Hackney Red, wasn't it called?
Yeah. And it was great, and I remember having that, and it was. I really like red ale. It's something you don't get that much of. A good red ale.
I think I've spoken to Lianne about that last week, and I spoke to Tom Bacon about that when he was on his own. Like, where are the red ales?
Did you really?
Yeah.
I actually earlier today was
I'm going
looking.
to change the name of the program to Red Ales. We want red ales.
Well, I was actually looking earlier today because I'm looking for a future. I've got a tasting coming up, and then I'm sort of planning ahead. And I was looking specifically for red ales. And but that was. Yeah, that was one of the beers that I remember being like, "Oh, that's excellent." So so I saw the job come up, and stuff like that. Kapow was one of my sort of go-to pale ales and stuff like this. So, and I knew him a bit, so I applied for that and got it. And then, so yeah, I've been there just over a year, and that's been it was really quite I hadn't really factored in quite how different it would be going from a predominantly cask brewery to a predominantly more keg and can. Yeah. And it was quite a big difference, and you realise actually breweries even that are brewing very similar stuff have very different methods often, and just little things that you have to sort of relearn, if you like. So, and since being there, I got my GCB, which I didn't have, the General Certificate of Brewing, which is a good thing to get.
That's a very good thing to get. I would like to have that myself. That would be really cool. I want to have that next.
Yeah, that was I'd sort of been wanting that for a while. I think it's good the way I did it, of actually having a few years sort of in breweries first. Yeah. A lot of brewers you see, it seems to be either sort of, I mean, I did a philosophy degree, so it's sort of people like me, you're wandering philosophers who have no idea, or you've got this sort of...
You were a philosopher and then you ended up in construction.
What's
going on, Joe?
They gave me a job. I've got no idea. But so then, I'm of that ilk of brewing, whereas you get then the other side, you get this, the chemical engineers and biochemists and stuff like that, who really have that scientific. Yeah, it's funny coming from that side of it. But then that's why I think having done a few years in brewing first, then going to do the GCB was probably, I think I would have found it incredibly difficult going in without having that understanding from actually doing. Sure. But it's still difficult, and that's just scratching the surface. So I'm hoping to do my diploma before too long, but that'll be really tough. I think.
Might think about that one.
Yeah, that's it.
So obviously you have your core range at Hackney.
Yeah.
Which is like pale ale lagers.
Yeah, they've got.
Sorry, so I'm.
Oh no, that's fine. So there's
a loop on this one.
There's Kapow, which is like a sort of American pale ale. There's Hackney Lager, which is actually sort of they call it Colon style lager, because you can't really say Kolsch, so it's like
Kolsch, yeah.
So it's Kolsch basically, but A's lagered, so we put it in tanks to store it for some time. And then we've got like an IPA called Boogie Van. And what are the other cool ones? I should really know this off my heart. An XPA called Interface, and we sort of added to it. There's a new one called Mysterious Spectre. Really like quite chewy, hoppy, hazy beast. So, but what's really fun at Hackney is that we do loads of collaborations as well as loads of one-offs. So things like, I mean, something like the Millions of Peaches is now like an annual thing, and it goes down a treat that's really well received. And then we've done, I mean, since I've been there, we've done stuff like collaboration with Evil Twin.
Great.
Drop Project was a recent one. Pressure Drop, like lots of good, wicked breweries, and that's always good fun. Is you learn a lot from doing that stuff.
So do you get to have an input on, say, if you wanted to brew something weird and wacky, are you able to go in and say, right, okay, I want to brew this beer, or are you not able to do that?
Sort of, it's more now, it's a bit like, generally I don't come up with a recipe, but what will happen is then we will have a discussion around it often. The boss, John, will come up with something and be like, I'm thinking of we should do like a hazy something or other, this is what I'm looking at. And sometimes we'll be like, well, drop a bit of this, add a bit of that. And same with, it's definitely become more and more collaborative. It's nice for me as well because it's sort of with confidence you get nearer that, because, my whole homebrew time and running brew club, I was brewing all sorts of bonkers stuff all the time. Yeah. And you sort of think you it's this thing, isn't it? You think going from that, you go into brewing and I think sometimes people have this perception of brewing as like people just running around going, let's just make this, and just chucking anything in.
Yeah.
And it's really not, you know, like any brewery, as you know, they have their core. Often what you're brewing is the same stuff. Exactly. And you brew the same stuff again. I've been lucky at Hackney because seemingly more so of late, just brewed all sorts of stuff. One of the ones I've got in the fridge, a big chocolate stout we did with cocoa husks, cocoa nibs in, cocoa powder, like chocolate every step of the way.
Wow.
There was something chocolatey.
That sounds right up my street.
Really, yeah, it's come out really well. And that was really fun doing it. That's been one of the greatest things working there, really. It's a really nice team. I love the brew. I really like the brewery anyway. So
you are moving on though, aren't you, from Hackney now? So you are moving off to Beavertown next.
I am, yes.
Yeah. So what's exciting you about that position?
Well, I'm going to the stadium, you know, the little brewery in the stadium.
Are you a Spurs supporter?
I'm going to say yes.
So you're not an Arsenal supporter, are you?
I'm not really into football.
As long as you're not Arsenal and definitely not Chelsea. Oh my god.
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely not Chelsea. Yeah. No, if anyone, I could potentially half-heartedly say I'm a Newcastle fan from my time.
Okay.
But that's very half-heartedly. But I mean, it's Beavertown. They're such like a sort of institution. And talking of beers that got you into craft, you know, neck oil was.
Oh, good, yeah.
Was one of those in the early days. I was like, wow. And
that's still everywhere as well.
Yeah. And I remember one of the brewers from there coming to Brew Club years ago, because we used to get brewers in. Well, it still does. Sorry, I should say. We'd get brewers in to do like brew-alongs, and doing a brew-along with neck oil with one of the brewers, and that was great. Like everyone loved it.
That's a really cool idea. I like that.
Yeah, and those are great little events. They're still doing those at Brew Club, or will be, you know, when it's back up and stuff. But those were the things I loved there. Was, you know, you'd have brewers from all these different breweries come in, and I was always like, you're going to give us the recipe, you know, and they do. And you're like, wow,
but not the method, all the equipment.
This is it. Then you go home and you're like, I'm just going to make neck oil for myself, and it'll be perfect. Yeah. And then that's when you realise, oh no, it's not like that. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing brewery. The brewery itself is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Stadium to have the chance
I won't step foot in there because I am an Arsenal supporter. So
yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, so I'm going there in about a month. I'm really excited. It's a really awesome opportunity.
Very
and
cool.
The team there seem wicked. Well, one thing that's really cool I found was the guy who's going to be my boss and one of the other sort of senior brewers at the other site is they were both at Newcastle University, which is where I went to university.
Oh, cool.
You know, a good while after me, I'm knocking on. But where one of them set up, there's a thing up there called Student Brew thing in the chemical engineering labs, I think, where they actually set up a little brewery. The students did. And
that sounds epic. Yeah, what are they brewing there? Wow.
This is it. And I'd heard about that because I still go up to Newcastle sometimes. I've got a friend who's now there, and so I go up occasionally to do talks to students about sort of what happens in life after a philosophy degree, you know, or you know that.
I'm not sure you're the person that needs to be doing
No. They always they always seem confused. But so I'd heard about it, and I meant last time I was up, I meant to pop there because my friend was like, "Oh, you should go and see the Stew Brew lot because you know you're a brewer."
That sounds very cool.
Yeah, like a lot cooler than stuff we did when I was there. So,
all right, yeah, you got another beer on the go, haven't you? I heard.
Well, I haven't learned how to pour, obviously. So that's,
where's your training? No, I'm joking. What have you got on the go now?
Which one is it? This is one of the Hackney ones. I think this is Sea Dog's Rest.
This is the blank can.
Yes. So this is one of these punchy, hazy IPAs that we've made. We made a couple of these lately. It's just got better and better. This is outrageous at the moment. Like really sort of stone fruits and.
I do find that those sorts of IPAs. Beautiful. They always say drink fresh on the can, but actually, if you leave them, I completely disagree with that. Like more and more now, especially because now from making the beer, canning it, and then you know on canning day, I'll often take some home or whatever. Yeah.
and it's often you'll be like, it's not quite what I'd hoped for. And then like this one is, I mean, it's the first one of these I've opened in a couple of weeks. It must be a couple of weeks, and it's smelling absolutely amazing. Like it's really developed beyond what it was, and I think this push for freshness sometimes goes a bit too far. You like just give it a moment.
Yeah, you need to with beer.
It was all
flavours meld. It's a living product at the end of the day. You know, that yeast needs time to mellow out and get those flavours all mingled together. Well, I am going to open this bad boy, which is also Marks & Spencer.
Oh, Anarchy. Yeah,
Anarchy, yeah. So I think our lovely friend Tom has announced that he will be at Anarchy.
Cool.
He's moving along there. So I just love the can. It's called Blonde Star. And with blonde beers, there's so many horrible puns when it comes to blonde ales. But this is actually Marilyn Monroe, like, giving it her all. And I just think, yes, that's a powerful image. I'm here for that image.
I like Anarchy. I've got a lot of time for Anarchy.
Yeah.
I also
Newcastle too, aren't they?
They are, yeah. There's such a good scene up there now. It was just Newcastle Brown when I was up there, really. But I also like them because they're on their Facebook ad. It has the singer from a band called Therapy on it.
Oh, no, Therapy. Yeah.
You know Therapy, yeah. So, and I was like, is that Andy Cairns? And it apparently is. So.
Oh, there we go.
Look at that.
Pretty.
Sorry, I've not really been doing that, have I? I've not done enough.
There you go.
That's my hazy little boy.
You can't see through it.
Yeah.
That one's beyond glass as well.
What's that, sorry? No, it's
beyond glass. No,
totally branded. It's a Hackney glass.
Got to have the right glass. Yes. What's this one? Yeah, 4.1% blonde beer. Wheaties. I've got wheat in there. Extra pale wheat, hops, Citrus Summit, Magnum Willamette.
Oh, Summit's a sort of underused hop, I think. I like Summit.
That's really tasty. It's got a really light sort of papaya flavour to it. And really sweet as well. That was not what I was expecting. You know, sometimes wheat beers can be just very cereally and sort of bogged down with the sort of cereal flavour, whereas that's really light and effervescent. Tasty. Well done, Anarchy. So what should we talk about now? We should probably talk about your new venture.
Yes, before lockdown. Well, you know, as you know, going back to sort of meantime, I was doing tours and tastings there, and then I did quite a lot with sort of UK brewery tours, as well as...
Oh, I forgot about UK brewery tours, of course. Well, Lianne also is a tour guide for UK brewery tours.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
I do often talk to Dom about you. Like, no, he's not.
Oh, dear. I've been meaning to message him, actually, because they sent some really nice emails over this whole... But they're great. They've been really fun to work with. So I was doing tours with them, and outside of that, I'd been doing the odd private tour, the odd corporate thing or whatever, and tasting. And then just before lockdown, me and a friend had decided to sort of try setting up a little business, really with the aim of doing it locally to me. I mean, I'm you know, brewing and I've got little ones, so it's tough for me sometimes to go travelling all over. And
just a bit of beer money, basically.
Yeah, and a bit of fun, you know. So I was going to sort of basically set that up, and then the whole COVID thing happened. So really, I thought, well, there's no way that's happening. And then I did a couple of tastings on, like Zoom tastings, one with the Beer Balls lot, tasting Hackney beers, and one for a friend's sort of family, because they wanted something to do, and I was like, I could do an online tasting. And a mate of mine who did one of them was like, oh, you should do that. Like, that's the business sort of thing. So I did. He did the website. As I said before, I'm a total Luddite. So my friend Aaron went and sort of built this website and stuff and just sort of told me what to do. And then I started doing these online tastings. So under the moniker Rambling Beer Man. Sorry, you might hear shouting. That's
fine. No
worries. So I started doing online tastings as Rambling Beer Man. And the idea is that you book and you get sent a box of 4 different beers, and then like this, you get an email through and join a Zoom room, and then you get an hour to an hour and a half sort of tasting and go through the beers, and it's been really good. It's been really good fun. I've got a little private group on Saturday. I've got another tasting next Thursday, and I'm just going to line up the next one. So it's been actually really good and really good fun. And the nice thing for me is it keeps me on my toes, because I've got quite a lot of people who keep repeating. So it's like, you can't just do the same beers, you know, and you don't want to keep doing the same styles, because it's like, you know, so but what I like about that is it really keeps me on my toes and keeps me looking for other beers. So obviously you are going to get the same style sometimes, but I can't repeat beers really, because there always seems to be at least one person who's done one before. Yeah. And I'm like, which one were they on? Have they had this? You know, so...
Mind you, I always found with beer stuff is that because generally you are drinking beer, the repetition really helps to look at it. It's taken me so long to learn about beer because I was drinking it at the same time.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, I think I sort of worry too much about repeating stuff, but also
customer service.
It's but it's the sort of way I do it is very informal and rambly, really. So I will go off on tangents and tell tales and stuff, and really it's about having a laugh, because I think these things can be a bit intimidating sometimes. I mean, I sometimes find these sorts of things intimidating, and I've been in the industry for quite a while. So a bit like with Brew Club, the aim of Brew Club really was to be accessible, to make brewing accessible. It's a bit like that. An aim here is really to make craft beer accessible. So it's got I think a bit of something for people who are beer geeks, but also the people who've got no idea. And I like to do a range of styles, which actually probably you know, being a beer sommelier yourself, you'd probably be like that. You're doing a bit of a weird one there, because it's sort of go, you know, in terms of like your palate can get a bit exhausted, but it's only four beers, but you know what I mean. So it will jump from side to side. But again, that's part of the fun, is working out, well, how are you going to line them up? Like, what's not going to destroy the palate for the next one, and what makes a good flow of beer? You know, it's
good fun.
Yeah, really good fun.
Where do you source the beers from, and do you deliver? Did I see you deliver them by bike or something like that? Is this quite very?
Well, so when I started out, because I was sort of testing it, I was delivering them by bike myself. People would email and be like, "Can you deliver to, you know, this postcode?" And I'd just go, "Yeah, go on then." And then it would turn out to be, you know, like 10 miles each way, and I've got like 10 other packages to deliver. So there was a couple of days where I did really outrageously long cycle rides with loads of boxes of beer. And then I was like, I can't keep doing that. So now it's more like you book and they all get sent via DHL. And I run it out of Hackney Brewery, because obviously you need license and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm licensed, but so
you need the licensed premises in order to dispatch beer from.
So they've been really awesome in letting me run it from there. My aim is to try and really keep it going.
Do you think it's going to keep going as pubs open up? And to be honest, I think we might see a second lockdown.
Well, this is the thing. We just don't know. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. I think the thing is what I'm going to start doing is physical tastings. So you know, what socially distanced tastings at places like Beer Merchants Tap, because that's such a good place. I've done a few there before, and it's such a good place for it, because they have amazing beer. But in terms of the online stuff, I think the market for it really is I think a lot of it's going to be outside of places like London, because, you know, for instance, like my dad joined one with his mate, and they live in a little village sort of in Lincolnshire.
Oh, well, you could post it out to them, I see.
Yeah. So and that's what great. They loved about it was they were like, they don't have little craft beer shops by them. No. And they don't have places where there's tastings all the time. Like here in London, you know, when stuff's normal, there's tastings and stuff going on all over the place. You know, there are things. It's same with most of your beery cities now. There's ways you can go and find out about beers and enjoy them and sort of have a taste. In a lot of the smaller towns and stuff, you don't have that. So you're kind of excluded from that whole world. So really part of it is to try and make it, you know, get people on board who aren't gonna have that option. But down the line, I'd like to start, obviously if it carries on, like working with breweries a bit to do some more, you know, specials. So if you want to check out this brewery, here's 4 beers from there and whatever. But it's cool. It's a bit of fun, and it keeps me on my toes. So what's nice is it's making me develop my knowledge of beers and styles.
So, Joe, can you let us know where to find your Rambling Man website?
Yeah, it's ramblingbeerman.com, and that's it.
All right, that's easy. So how often do you do the tastings? Is it weekly? And like you said, you can do private bookings too, which is a really cool idea.
That was me having to check the website. It is that, yeah. So it's rambling, just that sort of paranoia. I was like, that is the website. Yeah, it is. It is. So ramblingbeerman.com. At the moment, I'm doing tastings roughly every 2 weeks, but I also do private tastings. So if you've got a company or group of friends that you want to do a tasting with,
that's such a cool idea. So even if you've got like family around the country or friends around the country, or you just can't see each other, you can all link in and have the same beers and enjoy them at the same time. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and that's been quite nice. As I've done a number of little private group ones, and that is quite fun because you have someone up in Scotland, somewhere in Wales or whatever, and it's all really about having a bit of a laugh and it being laid back, but you probably learn a bit, but probably forget it, like you say.
Oh, that's really cool. So we'll definitely put some links around the place.
Awesome.
I'm never sure where to put them. I think there's somewhere in Facebook we can put them in the comments or the description or something, and where people can click through and get more information and book in if they want.
Yeah.
It's such an awesome thing. And do the prices vary depending on what beers you have? Can you different styles if you'd like to, or?
If it's a private booking, then styles can be tailored. So I'm open to people saying, can we do something a bit like this, a bit like this. At the moment, I'm basically doing it all at one price, which is £30.
And you get what you're given
per head. Yeah, and you and you get four beers. They're always craft beers. They're always good beers. Obviously, that's subjective. But so you get them delivered to your door. So you get the 4 beers package.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I think we should cut to Lianne now and find out her beer of the week. Cheers, Joe. See you in a minute. Hey, Lianne. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, great, thanks.
Brilliant.
So now that bars and pubs are starting to gradually reopen, I've started to reduce the ridiculous amount of beer orders that I've been doing from breweries over lockdown. There's been so many. Me and my boyfriend have had like cardboard boxes just stacking up just everywhere. It's been mad, but great. But yeah, it meant that my beer of the week didn't come so naturally to me this week, because it was more of a case of, what do I have that I can drink and talk about? And I have a Beer 52 subscription, which I've had for absolutely ages, and I still have it partly because I signed up for it once and then it just carried on and I never cancelled it.
It's very hard to cancel a Beer 52 subscription.
It is. I think they get quite a bit of slating because of that.
They do.
Even though the first when I joined, I was intending to cancel it at some point. I have kind of gotten to the swing of it, and it is always quite nice knowing that you've got a certain amount of beers that are going to be coming once a month. You're going to have something in the house. It is quite nice. So this week I decided to dip into my Beer 52 box for Beer of the Week, which is the Garden Brewery Flat White Coffee Porter.
Ooh.
So I'll pour this out in my nice little Northern Monk Dark and Wild City.
That's really cute, that glass. I've never seen a glass like that before.
It's so cool. I went to Dark and Wild City, I think it was in November, and they always have different little glasses for their festivals at Northern Monk. So Hop City, I've got Hop City ones somewhere as well. These I just think are so sweet, especially when you're drinking stouts and porters, especially with stronger impy stout, strong porters. I tend to share them like with my boyfriend, or I'll have it slowly over the course of an evening, and I quite like using these little glasses for those. So I thought, why not? And also I'm going to the Northern Monk Refectory in Manchester on Saturday. And
fantastic.
So I thought I'd dig this out. So the Garden Brewery are based in Croatia, in Zagreb, and I've had quite a few of their beers before, mainly via Beer 52 boxes. I don't think the first time I ever had their beers was from Beer 52. I can't quite remember when I first had their beers. And they're a little microbrewery. Apparently they set themselves up kind of in response to all the music festivals happening out in Croatia.
Yes, of course.
They wanted to basically be able to serve good craft beer to those music festivals, which I thought was also quite a nice theme, because I'm really missing the idea of going to a music festival this year. This is flat white coffee porter. It's 5.5%, and I think another reason I picked it this week is because I've been very, very tired, and this essentially just tastes like a cold brew coffee. The dominant flavour is the coffee coming through. There's a slight almondy lightness to it as well, which I quite like. It's very sweet. I think for some people who don't particularly like sweeter stouts and porters, they might find this a little bit too much. I don't drink that many stouts and porters myself. I just really felt in the mood for this today. It's kind of a bit of a grey, miserable day.
It's a grey, miserable day in Manchester. Yeah, same there as well. Oh.
I'm craving coffee. It's quite roasty as well in flavour. There's a dark chocolateness coming through as well, but I'd say it is very subtle.
The cold brew coffee is
the key here. I'd say it's medium bodied, but yeah, as I said, Beer 52 sometimes gets a bit of a bad rep, mainly because you can't cancel it that easily. But they I feel like they have been up in their game a little bit more recently. Boxes from them. So
yeah, I think I remember talking of sort of dark big porters. I think it was I never know how to pronounce her name. It's Pogella, the Estonian. Yeah. Who are amazing, and I'm pretty sure the first time I came across one of their beers was from Beer 52. It's
a mix of the nice familiar breweries and beers. Like there's quite often, a Northern Monk Faith in there, or Harbour is another brewery that they often have. And that when I get those, it's often quite a nice, that's a great beer. I'm happy with that. But then it does, occasionally there will also be something quite interesting that I won't have had before. But yeah, the Garden Brewery, they have a tap room as well over in Zagreb, and I've read a little bit about it, and apparently they have quite a lot of live music on there, and they usually have 11 taps of their beer running at any time. So if you ever get to go on holiday ever again.
This sounds great. I'm sad.
I know it's a little bit depressing.
Yeah. I'm trying all about the really nice place I can't go to.
But then in other news, you mentioned home brewing earlier.
Yes.
Me and my boyfriend have been trying to do a little bit of home brewing during lockdown.
Wow. That's exciting.
We've been getting some packs from Brooklyn Brew Shop. I feel like we'll do a few of those, and then we'll eventually progress to sort of trying to create something ourselves, which
I'm really excited about that. That's awesome. Really cool.
We've done a book for Berliner Weiss, and it should be ready this weekend actually. So as long as it's nice and not horrible and goes wrong, then maybe I can
even if it goes wrong with homebrew, and I'm sure Joe can attest to this, you learn things, don't you? You learn a bit more. Yeah. So what's the deal with booking for Northern Monk? Do you have to book a table? What's the
so you don't have to book a table at Northern Monk. They are accepting walk-ins, which I believe quite a lot of places in Manchester who were last weekend saying bookings only are starting to accept some walk-ins, but I guess it just depends how busy it's going to be.
All right, well, thank you very much, Lianne.
Thank you for having me.
See you again.
See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Take care. Bye. Hey, Joe, let's go through the beers that have got you through your lockdown.
It's been a weird one, because a lot of what I've drank has been Hackney beers, because I can get them. One of them being this. I do love Millions of Peaches.
That sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, that's really good. I'll send you some up.
I'd love to. Yeah, brilliant.
Other ones are, I rediscovered Rodenbach. I say rediscovered. It's a beer that I absolutely love and have done for years, but I've not really had it in a long time. But good God, I love that beer. It might be one of my favourite beers of all time. Something about just having it again, because it had been a while, was just, and in the time since I last had it, I've tried all the all sorts of different beers, including your stuff like your Cantillon and stuff like that, which I love a lot. I love a lot of the Cantillon stuff. But something about Flanders Red, something about that specifically wrote about is just absolutely perfect.
Hashtag Red Ale Revival.
Yeah. And then the other, I suppose the other, so I've been drinking a lot of Hackney beers, a lot of pale ales, and a lot of like just quaffable pale ales, because I think like a lot of people have been starting to drink too early of a day, so it's like don't want to always begin on a sort of imperial or whatever. So, but then the other thing is I live right near I'm pointing as if you can see, but Howling Hops, and I can't even see it. But
I bloody love Howling
Hops.
Do
you?
They're great.
They're fantastic, aren't they? They are, and I live. It's literally a 5-minute walk from my front door to Howling Hops. So, and then obviously Beer Merchants is near there, so I'm lucky.
And Crate is near there as
and
well.
Crate next to it,
How's Crate getting on at the moment?
They're doing okay, I think. I think it's been a struggle for everyone. They've both sort of reopened now, Crate and Howling Hops and Beer Merchants. But Howling Hops, I think, opened before the other two, just for takeaway. And it was like takeaway, but they were also doing, you could get groceries there, sort of in the middle of lockdown, which is really nice. You could go and get like eggs and beer, And so I basically started, I remember walking past one day and just being like, oh my God, I can get beer from there. Because I just hadn't really been ordering in stuff much, except for when I had a tasting going on. Otherwise, I was drinking Hackney beer, which I love, but it's beer I'm incredibly familiar with. And what I like about Howling Hops is they really mix it up. So they do a lot of different stuff, and they do it really bloody well.
It's very small batches well, not very small batches, but fairly small batches, isn't it? How big are the fermenters? But they're in there, and each fermenter is something different.
This is it, yeah. And I just went in the other night, and it was like, I don't know, they have something like 10 tanks maybe behind the bar, because it's a tank bar. It's one of the only tank bars in the UK. And there was like probably 6 of them were ones I hadn't tried, and I was like, wow, like you just sort of mixed it all up. And one of my ones that actually became a bit of a thing for me and my wife Rachel was, they had one of ginger and was it ginger and, did I make that? Ginger and apple. It was a ginger and apple sour.
And that's harking back to your cider days, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's called Toko. I think it's called Toko. And it actually was. I we loved it. We tried it one day, and then it'd be a thing because they were selling it in like paper coffee cups. So you get one of those and then just walk on. You couldn't stay in there, obviously. But that was great walking, because also it makes you look like a more respectable parent if you're, pushing Arthur around and you've got a coffee cup which has beer in it, but not a can of Stella, which is what would otherwise wander around with. But that was great, because it was actually, to me anyway, it was like a really lovely dry cider with this sort of fresh ginger sort of cutting through at the end, and that was a bit of a revelation. I think a part of it is
tasty.
Yeah. And I imagine, knowing what they're like, they'll probably never do it again. So it's probably like, that was it. There was one tank of it and it's gone. But it's made me really want to brew a good Hackney.
You're making me really want to come and visit Hackney.
Yeah, well you should. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's sort of my. I guess it's my beers. Otherwise, it's been a lot of stuff that's been relatively standard, but. And sometimes you just want something simple, that isn't gonna blow your face off. So even though I've really just mentioned sours, it's like they're like the sort of standout ones, if you like. A lot of what I've had has been just nice, sort of gentle pale ales and stuff like that. So.
Fridge beers.
Yeah,
it's getting you through. Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think. That's probably it then. Thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Been really cool. Yeah.
And when this is all over, well, I'll send you. Remind me, I'll send you some of this, and then when
I think I will remind you. Yeah. I'm not going to forget that offer.
And yeah, awesome.
That'd be great, and then I can drink it on the show on the next show. Well, whenever it comes.
Cool.
And whenever you feel like coming up to Manchester?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Invite.
When we're all moving around, yeah, and same if you want to come down Heavyweight. Yeah.
It's my old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
See, I used to be coming down to London every so often just to do something or other, and that's all stopped now.
It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there one day. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah.
And good luck with everything. And we'll put your links to all of your Rambling Man stuff around, so people can link up with you for your tastings. And it was a pleasure.
Wicked.
So, cheers.
Wicked. See you soon. All right. Bye. See you. Bye.